Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode we're doing another listener request from Josh Bukes. He says, "I love your videos. Any chance you could do a video on Allen Robinson?" And yes, I can do a video on Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson is by far, that 2014 wide receiver class was pretty good. In terms of all the wide receivers that were in it, it had tons of wide receivers that were super productive. It had tons of wide receivers that became successful that were unathletic and super athletic. I mean, you had the pick of the litter in that class in terms of the wide receivers that were in it, and it's just been amazing how those guys have performed in terms of the success they've had early in their career. And Allen Robinson is an example of a wide receiver that had a lot of positive indicators. In fact, in some cases, had better indicators than a lot of the class. Like if you actually were just going strictly by numbers, like production and athleticism traits, Allen Robinson would actually be head and shoulders above most of the 2014 class when it comes to those particular numbers and those metrics. So, which we'll get into. But yeah, Allen Robinson is a very interesting player, a player that is on the rise, a player that, of course, has a lot of fans with reception perception, and all the stuff that kind of goes into that stuff. But in terms of the metrics that you need to know in this analytics profile evaluation, you need to know passing yardage, market share, production. Passing yardage, market share, production is where you take individual offensive statistic and you divide it by the team total statistic. In this case, passing yardage. So if a wide receiver has 1,000 yards in a 4,000 yard offense, and that wide receiver had 25% passing yardage, market share, production. And then you compare that number to every single wide receiver performance since the 1969 NFL draft class, and then boom, you have a way to see, okay, where did the majority of the 5-time All-Pro players end up? Where did the majority of the 3-time All-Pro players, 3-time Pro Bowl players, and of course long-term starters, which is kind of the cutoff in terms of outcomes for that methodology. And then, of course, we look at athleticism, specifically explosive lower body strength score, speed score, and flexibility score. Explosive lower body strength score is the vertical and broad jump measured against mass density. The speed score is the 40-yard dash measured against mass density. And the flexibility score is the short shuttle/read cone measured against mass density. Which gives you an idea of, what their athleticism traits are. What are they good at? Are they explosive? Are they fast? Are they flexible? Are they very shifty? Stuff like that. And then, of course, we'll look at his NFL production. So with all that stuff out of the way, let's look at Allen Robinson in terms of what he looked like in terms of production, athleticism, and, of course, what he looks like in the NFL. So when it comes to Allen Robinson's production coming out of college, he had a 98.12 passing yardage, market share, production score. Based on my data that goes back to 1969, almost every single 5-time All-Pro wide receiver in that time span had at least an 85 or higher score, and 3-time All-Pro players, 3-time Pro Bowl players, and of course long-term starters pretty much were that or higher. So Allen Robinson pretty much hit every single high-quality threshold that you could imagine at the wide receiver position based on his passing yardage, market share, production coming out of college. Which is amazing, it's really cool to say the least in terms of his production coming out of college. Then when you get to his athleticism testing, and he was a 96.06 explosive lower body strength guy, a 71.65 speed guy, and a 97.83 flexibility guy in terms of testing. Based on my data, again, he pretty much hits every single threshold that you want. In terms of the wide receiver position, the way athleticism works at the wide receiver position, which most people don't get or don't look at the trends, you need to have one above average athleticism trait in order to hit Pro Bowl or All-Pro outcomes. Every single Pro Bowl to All-Pro wide receiver since 1999, with the exception of Chad Johnson, had at least one athleticism trait that was above average, or at least 54 or higher. And as you can see in Allen Robinson's case, he pretty much has elite level explosiveness, elite level flexibility, and even his speed score is within the range that needs to be in terms of high quality outcomes. So essentially, even if Allen Robinson did not have a very good explosive lower body strength score and had a terrible flexibility score, he would still be within the range of athleticism traits that you're looking for in terms of all-pro and Pro Bowl players, along with his production. So coming out of college, if we go back to college again, he pretty much has the profile of a multiple All-Pro to multiple Pro Bowl wide receiver based on his production and based on his athleticism traits. And again, this is specifically about potential. There have been players who hit all the athleticism marks and the production marks and, became starters, didn't really meet the expectations that their data suggested. Guys like Lee Evans and, maybe a couple other wide receivers. I'm not going to go over every single one. But the bottom line is it's just specifically about potential. Allen Robinson had all-pro to Pro Bowl potential coming out of Penn State based on his data in terms of athleticism and based on production. And then when you actually get to his NFL production, it's been decent. His rookie season, he had a 71.18 percentile score. That's by far his lowest score in his NFL career. But his sophomore season was a major breakout with a 95.97 percentile score, which is essentially a top 10 wide receiver production year. 2016, his production dropped a bit. Some of that was because, of course, missing a couple games and that kind of stuff. And, of course, the offense kind of took a hit with certain things here and there. But his production is not concerning by any stretch of the imagination. Most of the time when it comes to wide receivers, you want them to break out at least in year 2 or year 3. If a wide receiver doesn't break out by year 2 or year 3, and usually breakout is in the sense of hitting, say, 80 percentile or 90 percentile production in year 2 or year 3. If a wide receiver doesn't usually hit 90 percentile or 80 percentile production in year 1 or year 2 of their career, they usually don't hit heights like that. And maybe they do at one point in their career, but they never really repeat that production. So that's the only sort of thing. And with Allen Robinson's case, there's really no concern. He broke out in his sophomore season, had a 2016 season that wasn't really the greatest ever, but it was decent. I mean, it wasn't terrible by any stretch of the imagination, just wasn't up to par with what he did in 2015. And I think overall, everything at the NFL level up to this point is pointing towards good things with him based on his production at the NFL level. So in conclusion, with Allen Robinson, based on his data, everything pretty much checks the boxes. Coming out of college, he had every single production mark that you want from an NFL wide receiver. In terms of his athleticism marks, he hit every single sort of athleticism mark imaginable that you can want. He has more than enough athleticism to hit all Pro Bowl outcomes. And then on top of that, his production at the NFL level he's already had a 90 percentile plus season in 2015, and in 2016 he had an 84 percentile season, which is still really good on its own, despite some of the reasons why that score isn't as high as it should be based on his 2015 season. So there's lots of positives in the right direction for Allen Robinson. I would not be surprised if Allen Robinson continues to put up seasons like 2015. I mean, he has that potential based on his data coming out of college. He's a very, very young prospect. I mean, this is a player that isn't even 24 years old yet. 24 years old yet. Well, he's 24 this year, but, he's under 25 at least. So he still has many more seasons to put in, and I would not be surprised if the rest of his career he puts up similar production to what he did in 2015 and continues on with that sort of trajectory in terms of his profile, because in college he had tremendous production, had the athleticism traits that you're looking for, and then backed it up at the NFL level. And because of that, he's pretty much, at this point, pretty much a very safe wide receiver prospect to view as a top 10 to top 5 potential wide receiver in the future. So again, my name is James Coburn. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.